Dr. Abla, would you like to comment here? Again, we are back to the slides. Some highlights here. Let me just mention something important. I didn't know back then some methodologies of the report, but then when I went to the ECES, I thought I just saw it closely, and I know that we try to explain to people the question. So I have two comments here. The first comment about the changes that took place and some of the indications about Egypt. The change about the finances is very positive because all these reports depended on the survey, and the generalization of the questions really did not reflect reality. So some countries were very pleased that they are number one, but that does not reflect the reality. So methodology changed in the scoring, and that it took a lot of dimensions that are actually down to earth related to development, and also the benchmark and the indicators became more precise, and that's really good. As to comparison of 2017 is not correct. I think it's miscalculated because all the countries were the same, and these differences were slight. So that means that the calculations were not that precise. This is my first comment. As to my second comment concerning Egypt, a lot of things, and I don't want to take more and more time, but we will find that our high score, which is relatively high, but it's better than, it's more than 70%. It comes, in the basics and the very easy factors. But as to connections to the real economic development, we need to reconsider, for example, the pillar of institutions. Our problem is the quality of managing the lands, and this is a big issue. This is a big issue that faces investors. The change of the legislation and the laws are taking place, so we hope this will be compatible. As to the transparency of the government and the media and the capital, all these are very basic pillars, and this is a problem that we are facing. The infrastructure and the soil infrastructure, the railway roads also needs certain improvements, and the IT, the pillar of the IT, our score is very high. In the mobile sort of ownership, because each one in Egypt has 1, 2, 3 mobiles. So this should be allowing us and enabling us to use the e-government system, and that these mobiles should have icons, but we did not succeed in this issue. So the number should not make me very excited, because it's not related to the index itself or to the benchmark. And the broadband, which gives the strength of the internet for the usage when the internet is weak, of course, it's useless. So we need to work in this area also. And one of the very important things that is very good, which is adding to the stability of the economy, which is handling the debts. That's important. And when we speak about education, of course, I won't go in details, but the big number is people enrolled in the schools. But look at the lower number is this real suffering, which is the training of the professors, the vocational training quality, critical and innovative thinking. These all things are absent. We're looking forward that the new system of education would change that. But our good work comes into that we have good results, maybe the age entrance to school, which is not very important. And 67 7 at certain levels of school teachers, and that's not very good also. So I don't want to go again beyond the limits of this time, but the main problems were the financial sector. It is going very much okay, but other points like I mentioned needs more and more work, and unless this is done, we are not going to see any positivity in production and the gross national product and the gross income, which will reflect in social equity and our job opportunities. That's our criteria. These orange colors maybe are also indicated to show us that we should go on with these orange spheres to better places, to the green. Thank you for Dr. Abla. Well, this is what you're saying does make sense, but as it's, whether it's easy or not, I don't know. Yeah, I know it might not easy, but it has all to do with institutional reform. And when we do that, this is the guideline for any other good things, and I'm sure of that. Good institutional reform, everything goes fine. And our partner in this
multi-faceted talents, as a matter of fact, we will briefly say that at the present time, the chairman of the board and the CEO, he has a lot of talents, including that he represents the basic corporation that represents Honeywell in integrated solutions for industrial problems, and he represented Honeywell also in logistics related to barcodes. As for his CV and his information and the information about him, he has taken big strides towards achievements, and I don't think he needs to be introduced in an extra way. We'll give him the floor and he can take the time he needs so that he gives us his opinions that we have to carry out. Thank you, Mr. Omar. On behalf of the Competitive National Council, we have Mr. Houssam Badrawi and Mr. Tawfiq. We thank you for your attendance. This indicates your interest in the matter and the topic that we are dealing. We have been established about 15 years, and the idea behind that was to look into all the international reports related to Egypt and how is it rated in relation to competitiveness and business and other reports as well. As we said this morning, Mr. Kamal said it is evidence-based. Justification, we base everything on justification, and we have international reports. We give this to the officials and we say that those are the reports that are very close, and we look into the supportive policies. If used and implemented, we will be able to be ranked better. Unfortunately, this is very natural. Whenever we get a new prime minister, we have to teach him what is competitiveness. And what we succeeded in is that the word of competitiveness was accepted by the people. It's a common term used by the people. Actually, every year when we have those global reports, we can look into them with the officials and how can we improve our competitiveness in the next stage. The president has established a council or a ministerial group to study this matter. We were not invited to attend any of those meetings. I don't know what happened to those meetings. I don't know the reason. But this is a very important group, and this group has to meet with us so that we can find out with the civil societies how can we improve our ratings. Also, what we are studying at the present time is that we have a lot of subsidiary councils, but we speak of the relative competitiveness of Egypt. What does it mean to Egypt? Tourism. Why is it neglected? It's totally neglected, unfortunately. The highest income of the state, this was the biggest revenue in 2010, was 14 million tourists. Are we going to have only 14 million tourists? It goes without saying that our council should issue statements, and we spoke about that problem and how can we develop greatly that field. We have improved in all the global indications with that exception, and we do not understand why tourism is suffering and trickling down, unfortunately, and the revenue is dropping in Egypt in a rapid manner. Industry is very important. We work in all that fields, but the closest thing to us now, right now, and which could be implemented without investment in infrastructure or others. I've been asked a lot, do you have a travel agency or a tourist agency? No, not at all. Yet it goes without saying that it's something that we have to think of very seriously. Also, the group has created something called determination, the will. We did not invent it. It is a program in the whole world. We should have a will, a determination. 13 ministries have signed the MOU for data's. We in our Ministry of Tourism, we have laws from since Muhammad Ali. 13 ministries have signed such a memorandum, but it has stopped, and we do not know why. And it increases Egypt's competitiveness. Lastly, the project that we are trying to carry out and implement, despite the different changes in the cabinets, the regulatory system of legislation. The decision by the minister represents and has the power of any law. The minister, before promulgating any law, he should see what its impact and how will it affect other circles. Any investor who deals with the government must know a simple program, and the economic impact has to be looked into as well. Let us look at the legislation first, and let us be successful there first. Thank you. Thank you, Seif. These are very important points, and I think Ahmed Kamal is noting down points. Now we will give floor to Ahmed Kamal to comment. Once again, there are many things that we can deal with, but let us start with the points that have been raised by Mr. Seif. These are very important matters. First of all, the determination, the will. I want to inform you that there is a memorandum that is presented to the Prime Minister to have to activate the will matter. This matter had started and it was very good, but for reasons, several reasons, it came to an end and has stopped. We have noticed that there is consensus among the government related to the importance of that initiative. And it will include a vision to be directly under the auspices of the ministers, the ministerial cabinet, so that it could be implemented. That is a matter related to determination, and it is very important. As for the economic and legislative impact, that is closely related to what I have mentioned at the beginning of this meeting. Any policy is supposed to have some kind of an assessment, some kind of evaluation, and that evaluation would include a lot of things, the impact of legislation, the economic impact, so that we'd be able to have a good assessment for our policies, because policies, when are not in the proper manner, not only does it have a negative impact, but there is some kind of perplexation between the business society. The worst thing in investment is the uncertainty, the doubts. If every time the government has a certain decrees and laws and changes them and reverses them, I think this will negatively impact the situation. With your permission, very quickly, I want to make a simple comments on the indications related to Egypt. Dr. Abla spoke are very important points, basic matters. But I will deal with specific points that attracted my attention when I looked at the indicators. First of all, the infrastructure. For sure, Egypt has taken a big leap in the field of the infrastructure, and I think you have noticed this. People have noticed this, but there are certain points which still have problems. First of all, the intensification, the intensity of the railroad system. Transport for us has a very serious problem. Dr. Seif is specialized in this field, logistics, and she can speak at length on this matter. But we cannot have an environment of a business without having logistics that are good and good services. Egypt is in an excellent geographical location, but the logistics here are not strong. We might make use of Egypt's geographic location. The railroad system, for instance, is very poor. For sure, that would need a response by the government in order to improve that situation. Another point, the dynamic debts. The political leadership and the government is aware to the debt problem, and there should be a treatment of that sector. We have transparency in that field. Foreign debts are ever increasing, and this constitutes some risks, some danger on anything that could happen, anything that could impact Egypt's economic conditions. There should be a policy related to the debt problem and to have certain ceilings for foreign debts. This is very important. We and the government should realize that matter, and we are deeply aware of this problem. The accumulation of debts, as you know, for many years in the past, there was a deficit in our budget, and we had to have foreign debts, but at the same time, that situation has to be tackled and remedied, and this is our focal interest. Another point that I want to deal with, the employment market. I will not speak about this because we do not have a problem in that field, and I hope that the new labor law would be implemented. And perhaps you can speak of this matter better than me. As for the credit system, the credit that is provided to the private sector, you are aware that we had a great government deficit, and that leads to bottlenecks among the private sector. It results in a drop of investment. Government deficits is the mother of all economic problems. All problems economically come from that source. The government, there is a drop in the deficit at the present time, and this is supposed to affect that indicator. There will be more credits provided to the private sector. The more we have a deficit, shortage, the more we will have problems. Otherwise, there will be some improvement. As for the market value, as for regards the capitalization of that market, there are certain proposals, and the program has been drawn up on that matter, and this is supposed to improve the market value of the market. The last point I wanted to mention is very simple. I have taken a long time. I know. The competitiveness. Today, there is cooperation between us and the competitive center in order to be able to have a benchmark for competitiveness at the level of the governorates, not only at the level of Egypt at large, to have dimensions, results that should be good, so that not only do we look at Egypt. Egypt is a large country, and we have a lot of development capabilities in the different governorates, but we want to have a methodology to benchmark or indicator to measure competitiveness at the level of the governorates, and this is very important because that would lead to sustainable development at the level not only of locally, but at the level of the governorates. And we have to distinguish between two things, the competitiveness and the capabilities for competitiveness. I have been long, and thank you.